What up, guys? Craig, Fergie time. Today, I have a special episode. I have members from the Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery. 3 of these members were actually members that came and helped me out during a rollover. So that's how I first met them and how I learned about what Colorado 4x4 Rescue Recovery was. And like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And appreciate you guys. Guys, another episode of Fergie time. Today I have 3 legit lifesavers with me today who definitely helped me out of a jam, and I didn't even know about them, and I thought it'd be really cool for them to come on and kind of talk a little bit more about what they do. And these are 3 members of Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery. Jeff, we'll start with you and just kind of go around the room, brief intro, and just what your role is and how
Sure.
you got into.
Yeah, I moved up to Colorado from Texas back in 2020 and had been doing a little bit of overlanding before that and thought what better way to learn all of the trails in Colorado than to just kind of volunteer and get drug along to places. I had originally heard of the organization back in 2018 on a ham radio when I was in the area traveling through and heard them talking back and forth about a mission and kind of wrote it down and said, well, when I move to Colorado in a couple of years, I'll join up. So I've been a member since 2020. Was the director of dispatch for a couple of years and then was the president last year. And now I'm just a regular member again. So
Kimmy?
I am our public information officer. I've had this position for the last 2 years, and I've been with 4x4 Rescue and Recovery for 3.5-ish years. I bought my Jeep during COVID, and I'm an EMT by background, so figured it was the perfect niche, and then I moved to Florida for 2 years. Now we're back and actually using it for what it's meant to be used for.
So my name is Evan. I've been a member of the organization for probably almost 4.5 years now, so joined just a little bit before Kimmy. I drive a 2018 Jeep JKU, and I do this kind of as a side fun project while I'm in college, help out with dispatching and monitoring our missions, which I can do from college. But yeah, all in all, I got into it because I'd gotten a Ford Explorer Sport Track as my first vehicle, and take it on some Forest Service roads through Colorado, and was like, all right, what can I do that's more? And so I started looking up on YouTube and found the organization and reached out and joined.
So do most members join because they just wanted to start off-roading and it's like an easy way to get to know the trails?
I think it varies a little bit. We've got quite a few members that are...
How many do you have?
130-ish total.
130?
Yeah. Active members, probably
88.
closer, I think 88 is what we have for 2024. A lot of those are, part of other search and rescue organizations or ski patrol, that type of thing. And they got into off-roading and figured they could apply some of those skills here. And then we have some members that, kind of like Evan, started getting into off-roading a little bit and then came across us and figured it'd be a good way to volunteer and learn and get some training.
Yeah, we've also had a few people who, they'll end up in a sticky situation, we'll go rescue them, and they go, how do I join? And then they join, they learn the skills to not put themselves in that position again, and then they have a great time.
One of the things that I really appreciate about the organization, we never roll anybody just solo to go do a recovery, and there's a lot of safety in not huge numbers, but knowing that the people that you're out there with doing these recoveries on these trails are prepared and have that training and kind of have your back in different scenarios and situations. It's makes a huge difference for sure.
Well, and you guys kind of have a ranking system going on, because I heard you guys chatting about different levels and who's doing what, and because I think Evan was leading that rescue for me, right?
Yeah, so we've got a levels system. So as new members join, they start at level 5. And kind of as you learn more, do more, be a part of more recoveries, you can progress through the levels. So it goes all the way up to level 0, which is if we're on a major incident and we need an incident commander, that's who it is. And that's 1 or 2 people in the whole organization qualify for that. It helps us to, when we're dispatching the calls, to say, okay, yeah, we've got enough experience here because, for a level 2 requirement, you have to have gone on at least 30 missions. And that's, that's quite a few.
Are you saying like a certain recovery is a level 2 or?
No, so it'd be like if we got a call and we're sending a team out, and people are saying, hey, I'm available, we're gonna look at it and we can say, okay, if we have 4 people that are level 5, probably not gonna send them all because they all as one team because they don't have the experience. But if we have some level 5s, some level 3s, some level 2s, that's a good mix. We've got good experience. They're probably all going to be carrying, enough gear to do what we need them to do. Yeah, we'll send that team. So it just kind of goes back to being safe in the field and making sure we have complete teams.
So someone that just happens to go off into the snow a little bit, but is stuck and they can't get back to the road, if they happen to call you, you could send anybody for that, right?
Yeah, so we'll only recover if it's really a Forest Service or a BLM road.
Okay.
There's an occasional exception to that, but if it's something we don't want to, partly because we're all volunteer, we're not wanting to replace a commercial service. If it's something that you can just call a tow truck, we don't want to spend our time and resources to go and do a normal recovery. So our scope starts where a traditional tow company ends.
Kimmy, what's the most crazy recovery you've been to?
Honestly, it's probably the Wheeler Lake one, right? That one was so scrabbly to get off. Evan, you weren't with us, I don't think.
Was that
one? No.
Was that Wheeler Lake or the Xterra?
It was the Xterra above Wheeler Lake.
Above Wheeler, yeah.
This dude drove his Xterra up an old mining road and ignored the signs that said, don't drive here. And there's no place to turn around. And he tried to, and it was in a scree field, so little scary. I think there was a rock that jammed just right in his tire that kind of locked him in place, but little sketchy and nothing to really anchor to.
It's above tree lines, so we couldn't just hook to a tree and pull him back on trail.
And we were at
narrow shelf.
Yeah, narrow shelf. We were at 13,000 feet for 8-ish hours working on that.
There's 2 really that kind of stick into my mind. One was earlier last year was the Montezuma Basin. There was a JK that had rolled quite a ways down into a creek river. That one was just very, very technical in how we had to approach that and work with the Forest Service to get permission. The other one, this was a couple of years ago, there was one on Mount Blanca. There was an XJ buggy that had rolled off of Jaws 2 and actually rolled down below the switchback from where Jaws 2 was. That one was technically difficult for a couple of different reasons, but that was also a fatality involved in that one. So that kind of hits as a little extra level of toughness there.
Oh my gosh, sure.
yeah. I'd have to say this was a few years back as well. We got a call one night for a Jeep, a JT, a Gladiator. It was fully loaded and it had gone through the river at the bottom of Longwater Gulch. Outside Woodland Park. A team went out and got it most of the way out, but there was a big rock they couldn't get over. So the next morning, a larger team went out to recover it, and I was on that team. While we were out there, we got another call that there was a rollover on Hackett Gulch, so the next trail over. So we were able to get that JT out, and it was fully loaded. It was, I'll call it the overlanding package. It had a topper and water and everything you could ever want, and it was fully hydro-locked. All the electronics were dead, so it took a while to get it out. We got it out, moved over to go to the rollover, and it was a XJ sitting on its roof on, I believe it's Hackett Rock. Massive rock, probably
it was
4 car lengths long by 2 car lengths wide. Huge rock sitting on its roof. It was tricky, especially because of the fact it was leaking fuel. So the rock was covered in fuel, so we actually ended up having to call the fire department out, and they brought a brush truck out. And then, it was a tricky one just because of how much it slid down the rock as we were trying to recover it. And then on the way out, one of our team members' Jeeps had a mechanical failure, so we had to tow him out as well. And he ended up sitting at the gas station overnight because he didn't have any doors on his Jeep. So it was a long day. I think 16 hours on trail in total that day. Even though it was not technically challenging, it was long. Yeah.
Like you volunteer for a 16 just because you want to help people? Like that's why?
We've heard a couple different excuses. One is people want to help. We have a fair number of former EMS or military guys, and this is how they can kind of give back. And then there's some that this is a really good way to rationalize their mods and their new toys to their partner. A little easier to explain a new winch if you like need it for something and don't just want it for your Jeep.
What's some unexpected challenges? Like you go out there and you're like, oh, this is going to be straightforward, and then
it never
everything
is.
Everything just goes out the window.
Don't say that.
Because I had actually dispatched this call, so the guy called in and I answered, got all of his information. It was in Boulder County on there's a mud hole on 550. So a lot of people may know that. And he said, yeah, I'm stuck in the mud hole. I said, okay. I wasn't doing anything that evening. Paged it out, got a couple other members, and I drove down. And we get there, and he's laying on his side in the mud hole of this whole Jeep. And I just look at the guy and I went, did you not think to tell the dispatcher that you were on the side? He goes, oh, I just thought it was understood. And I'm like, no, you said stuck in a mud hole.
Has there ever been a time where you went to go rescue a vehicle and you couldn't?
We've always gotten them out. Sometimes we may not get them out that night and come back with a different team or a different plan at a later time. But I can't think of any that we left kind of permanently and said we can't.
The only times that we've done that and like left it for longer than a couple days in the mountains, when it gets stuck on trail and it's frozen in. And it's drifted and frozen in, and you have to wait until the snow thaws. And we've stayed in contact with the owners throughout the winter and like, all right, hey, okay, we're watching the weather. We think it's warm enough to go out. Let's go scout it. Let's go try and get it out now.
I want to say there's been times too where we'll coordinate with Forest Service on those. And I believe this happened last year, I believe. There was one that they were set to open the trail, and this vehicle was still stuck on it. And so Forest Service delayed the opening, kept the gate closed for a few more days so our team could get out there and recover the vehicle before they opened the trail for the season.
You know, part of our mission is making sure that we're able to keep Forest Service roads clean and get vehicles out and help people.
Are there other 4x4 recovery groups out there?
There's, you know, if you've got people in Colorado Jeep Club or something like that on, you know, in the Facebook group, sometimes they'll post, or they just know
random
people,
like,
or they
random
just know
teams
people. That's right.
Nothing organized really in Colorado. There's a couple down in like Ouray, Telluride area because they do it all the time with Black Bear and whatnot, and the sheriff's office coordinates all that and is very entwined in that. There are a couple kind of sister organizations to us in other states. So Nevada and California have a couple teams that operate similarly to us and are also based in the I4WDTA like training realm and very safety focused.
And another important piece that we feel is we don't consider ourselves, or we're not, a Jeep club or an off-road club. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, but we're a search and rescue organization.
Accreditation with the Colorado Search and Rescue Association. We're the only off-road organization kind of acknowledged by CSAR. And we're listed in the State Emergency Management Resources Portal. So the California fires and how these teams, all these firefighters from Colorado are deploying to California. That's that same portal. They request, I need XYZ resources. And then the various organizations say, cool, I've got 2, I've got 3, we'll send XYZ. So we can also be used in that format in, hey, yep, I can send 2 power wagons and 4 Jeeps and 10 guys. And, we can be activated for the county and state level emergency management scenarios.
I used to work when I was going to college. I used to work at Cave of the Winds. We would always have crazy hikers or whoever get stuck up on rocks, and they would have to call a rescue and recovery, and they would come out as a little team and go up and get them. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably similar to what you guys are, just a different unit.
That's right. So we consider ourselves vehicle-based search and rescue, where a traditional, Forest Service can't get there in their, pickups or their regular 4-wheel drives, or if it's something, and a lot of times they won't do recoveries. They may go in with a regular search and rescue team and just extract the souls, right? The individuals, get them back to shelter and safety, but leave the vehicle behind. Our mission is,
get the vehicle,
if it's a situation where we're going to have to get the vehicle anyway, a lot of times we'll just deploy in real time, and the SAR team never actually has to, because we take that over.
We can also be used, I know this has happened in the past, where a large-scale search. So a lot of county search and rescue teams, they don't have the resources to send 10 vehicles out on the trails searching. I go to school at Western Colorado University. We have a collegiate search and rescue team on our campus, and they run search and rescue for the county. They have 3 vehicles, 2 of which, maybe 3, could go on to some bumpier roads. That doesn't get the scale when there's a large area to search. We can be called in through the state system that, hey, actually, we need 15 Jeeps to go comb this area looking for these people because we don't have the resources.
What's the furthest rescue you've done, or the most remote rescue?
We've covered almost every county in the state.
Really?
So I've gone up through Laramie and then came back down and done recoveries near Walden, up by the North Sand Dunes. I've done stuff as far south as Blanca Peak, as far west as Rifle, quite a few around Eagle. Out west on the western slope.
We've been all over.
So is it usually someone rolls over, they call dispatch, you guys create the plan, and then is it usually like the next day, 2 days?
It depends on the complexity and how many people we need. And
I mean, our goal is pretty much, if there's people that are stuck out with the vehicle and they don't have another way out, then we
they're
run
still
those.
With the vehicle.
They're still with
You'd
the
go
vehicle.
get it.
A lot of missions that we run, there's people with the vehicle. So it'll be a call. We'll dispatch will answer that. We'll page that out, and anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes later, we've got people on the road headed there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we ran.
Is that what you said?
272 missions last year with 108,903 miles driven, and that's 11,028 hours of dedicated mission time. So last year, something we'd been hearing both from the community and membership was, to your point, this is expensive. And we want to help, but also this is expensive, and gas is pricey, and the wear and tear on our vehicles, and
you break something.
Think of even Steven's Jeep. Okay, he's gonna go drive to Buny on his 40s, just that wear. If it's farther, maybe he trailers it. And so just adding everything up. The community was like, well, we want to donate, but what does it go to? People, as they've heard that it's going back towards our members, are a fan of that. Members like this, and Jeff knows more of the exact details about the mileage reimbursement program because he built it. Through donations and then through some grants, we've been able to institute a program in the last year.
Something funny that happened while you were rescuing something.
Usually the funny little comments from the team. Because we cover the whole state and we have such a large membership, it's kind of rare that you get to work with the same people all the time, with the exception of the Fort Collins pocket. There's 5 or 6 people who live in Fort Collins, so they always kind of run up there. Same thing with the Springs. That group of 15 kind of, rotate through and know each other. But the rest of us, I don't get to see Evan on recoveries all that often. I think this is the first recovery I've gone on with you. It's the funny little FaceTime comment.
I know when you guys came and did my rescue, Evan's acting like a conductor and having winch 1, winch 2, and all this stuff. I mean, obviously it's a lot of teamwork. How do you get that teamwork if you don't even know your team?
The easy thing to say is, well, we're all united by the same goal, helping people out. But it kind of goes back to our training as well. So we are all trained through the International Four-Wheel Drive Training Association. So we've got a couple members in the organization that are certified trainers through them too, yeah. And so they will teach us. So we have to go through Recovery 1 and Recovery 2. Those are classes set up, specifically for us, so we can learn, what vehicle recovery is about, how to do it safely, what gear to look for, that sort of thing. And then while on those trainings, they also teach us, okay, like you were saying, winch 1, winch 2, and kind of if you listen to the video, I was given those instructions over the radio. That stuff is taught in those classes. So that way we all have a universal language when we're out in the field. And yeah, I've never been on scene with Kimmy before. That was my first time meeting Todd. When we're on those scenes, it's the same language no matter who's there. Chris, I've ran probably 15 missions with him back when I lived in Colorado Springs. We know what we're doing. Jeff and I have ran a few missions together, but it's the same language no matter who you are, what team you run with, that sort of stuff. And it really helps.
And a lot of that goes back to the onboarding process that we have when we bring in new members. We're not gonna take somebody that's done 3 missions and put them in a leadership role on mission. In order to advance, you have to complete like 20 missions to advance to from an L5 to an L4, and then run another 20 or 30 missions to get to an L3 or an L2. It's just that repetitive consistency across the team that's just through running that, and it's documented. I mean, we've got policies and procedures that says this is how you do different things. This is how you communicate. It's important, particularly when you look at, we're not a Jeep club, right? We're an actual search and rescue organization, and we've got all of the background there that makes things run smooth. And you can throw 6 people that have never done a mission together. You get together at the meetup and you say, who's leading today? It's going to be so and so. You kind of elect somebody and say, okay, you're in charge. Who's going in first? Who's going in last?
What are your tips for people to avoid needing to call you?
As like dispatch, just have to be prepared and go in expecting that something bad is going to happen so that you're prepared for it, right? I grew up in Colorado. We grew up skiing, and we always had sleeping bags in the back of the car. Knock on wood, we didn't get stuck. But if we did, we would be able to stay, theoretically overnight. I remember my mom always had a little box of snacks and some water and, the hand warmers and like that kind of stuff, so that if you are stuck, you'll be okay. The 10 essentials that, every search and rescue team, all of any outdoor organization kind of preaches about. I think a big thing that I'm sure these guys will chime in on is also knowing the capabilities of your vehicle. We posted this week about all of our snow recoveries, and even if you're in a big lifted built up truck, you may still get stuck. Also, maybe Corollas on passenger tires. Maybe you shouldn't go putting around in like the mountains right now. So just like realizing what your vehicle can do, what your capabilities are, and like, don't trust Google Maps. I think that's our other one. We all see the social media pictures where it's a box truck going up over like in Telluride or something like that. And like, I was just following the map. Do your research first.
Another important piece there is, go with somebody else. A lot of times we don't get calls for, a group of, 10 rigs that go out together. They're going to be able to self-recover. They're going to, collectively decide, hey, this is too much. Let's turn around. Go with people that have some experience. And if you're an experienced group and you bring a few new folks around, help educate and train those guys and let them learn. One of the things I think we see a lot of is people going in and saying, well, it started to get bad, but I wasn't comfortable turning around. So I kept going thinking it was going to get better. Some of the roads that are a little bit more conducive to like a passenger car or a crossover. So Switzerland Trail, for example, Rampart Range, some of those people can kind of traverse that year round, but then you get on a little side road and then it drops off and it's too icy and you can't get back up. As Kimmy said, knowing the capabilities of your vehicle.
I posted my rollover on Instagram and got so much hate. Oh my gosh. And one of the bigger things that I heard was, where are your snow chains? I don't have snow chains. Maybe I should look into some. Snow chains on Chinaman, man, we were going over so many rocks. Like, we would have busted those chains. So I don't...
It's also a situation of, again, having the experience to know, the trail conditions, when to use chains, when to stop and take your chains off, when to stop and put them back on again. Sometimes it's just looking at, nobody likes putting chains on and taking them off. I mean, it's horrible. But sometimes you say, okay, this section of trail, we're going to need chains because it's going to be slick. The snow's packed down or it's icy and we're not going to be able to get down safely or back up safely without chains. But then the next section is going to be rocky. Chains aren't very good on rocks. They get caught. You break a chain, you take out ABS line, you take out a brake line. And so knowing when to use the tools that you have at your disposal. Again, a lot of that just kind of comes with experience.
And chains definitely have their place, and they also don't have their place. We require them during winter recoveries. If you're going on a recovery, you will have 2 sets of chains in your vehicle. Whether you use them or not, depends on when you get on trail. But so we require
2 sets of chains.
2 sets of chains.
Just in case you bust one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, front and rear. So 2 pairs, I should say. 2 pairs of chains.
Oh, okay. I'm like 8 sets of chains. That's a lot.
We tell our team members, check them out ahead of time. Put them on in your driveway. Put them on, and then put your Jeep to max flex and crank the wheel and see if they hit somewhere. And then at the same time, I was on a recovery a week before yours with it was a Mazda. That whole recovery, no chains needed. We were on an icy area, but it was a light enough vehicle. We were able to move it, no problems. And then we get to the last hill, we needed chains. And so one vehicle put on a pair of chains was able to tow that Mazda out the rest of the way. But the rest of us who weren't towing something, we didn't need chains. And so it kind of all depends on, like we're saying, trail conditions, as well as whether or not it's required. Obviously, we all put on chains for your recovery just because, on the chance we'd have to tow you out or would have to, anchor ourselves somewhere. Chains will help with that, but they're not always necessary.
So what's the one essential recovery gear?
Traction boards. That's always my go-to. I would say...
And you should keep them in your room.
That's right where they go, right? But I would say a vast majority...
That's the broken pair. The good pair's in the Jeep.
The vast majority of simpler recoveries, I have one tire off the road, or I'm on a bit of ice, or I framed out, for the most part can be resolved with a set of traction boards. It might take you a while if you only have one set. We have a member who has 12 pairs, 14 pairs that he keeps on his Power Wagon.
He's got like
higher
8
than that now.
To be fair, he does tow his big camper with the Power Wagon in the middle of winter out into he
middle
can
of nowhere.
build himself a traction board road.
A lot of times on dispatch, we'll get a call that comes in. We're able to say, well, have you taken your floor mats out and put them underneath your tires? Oh, I did that and it worked. And traction boards are kind of just the next step up from that.
Airing down. We get people that call in and they're stuck in the snow, and we'll talk to them. We'll say, hey, we'll work on putting together a team, but have you tried to air your tires down a little bit, increase some contact patch, take your floor mats out, throw some sticks underneath, and a lot of times those kind of resolve themselves. A winch is pretty indispensable. There's a lot of areas that a winch, unless you have something to tie it to, it's not going to do any good. A high lift jack is another good tool. You can do a whole lot with a high lift jack. A shovel and traction boards.
All right, some quick fire questions. Snatch straps or winches?
Winches. I prefer a static recovery. Generally is going to be a little bit safer. You're not going to rip anything off. You're not going to build up a lot of tension in those snatch straps.
A lot more control.
If you're using a winch, it's a lot more control. We're recovering people. They're usually the ones operating their own vehicle. It allows us to go slower, and we can stop if we need to. Whereas if you're using a snatch strap, a lot of times what you'll see people is they'll just floor it and spin the tires, and then you risk running into the back of somebody or hitting something. And so winches, in my experience, are just a lot more controlled.
I've been seeing a lot more fails in my feed, and there's 2 that come to mind that I saw. One was, I think it was strapped around the back axle or something, and they pulled it out and the whole back axle came off. And then there was another one where it was like a newer car or something, and they put something on the front. The guy went way too fast and it pulled off the whole front of the vehicle. You guys see those, and you're just oh my god.
We've seen them on newer vehicles. I'll start there with that. People put the little hook in the front and clip to that.
That's where it was. Yeah,
that's not a recovery point. That is loading it on the tow truck on flat ground or tying it down on the auto hauler. It's not a recovery point. It's not rated for those 4 tires deep in mud. There's a lot more mire factor is what it's called. A lot more mire factor on that vehicle than if it's just sitting on flat ground. So in those kind of scenarios, we have what are called cluster hooks. If it doesn't have any other recovery points, we can go underneath, find the frame, and hook to a spot on the frame. They're used tow trucks a lot. We'll have cluster hooks. And those you never really want to use a kinetic anything with because they might fall out. They're called can openers. They can, open your frame up like a can. So we're pretty careful there. And then that's another thing we learn in our training is you never connect to suspension components. Because like you said, that axle can just be ripped right out, and then now your vehicle's stuck and you're missing an axle.
Yeah, absolutely. Never hook to a tow ball or a regular
never hook
hitch.
to a tow ball. Don't hook to suspension. Don't hook to the flimsy hook in your grill.
Try to minimize the force required before you're doing any pulling. So we mentioned traction boards, we mentioned the high lift jack. If you're mired down and have all 4 tires that are kind of sucked in, you can jack those tires up and throw some rocks or traction boards underneath. And sometimes you can drive out and don't even need to use a winch. Minimizing the forces that are going to be applied to that vehicle is important.
All the Jeeps have a lot of Jeeps will have the fancy bumper with the recovery points on them. How did they mount that bumper? Did they mount it with, just the cheap zinc hardware they found at the hardware store because the bolts that came with it weren't big enough? And so they went to the hardware store and got the cheap stuff, and it's now completely rusted, and you pull on that, it's going to break off. Or are they mounted with, the grade 8 hardware that they should be mounted with that'll, withstand that pulling force?
Snow recoveries or mud recoveries?
Snow.
Snow melts. Mud doesn't.
I grew up in South Louisiana. And I've spent enough time around mud, driving Z71s off into rice fields. I can't stand mud. I hate it. I hate having to wash it out. I hate having to crawl underneath 6 months later and having a bunch of mud and dirt fall down in your eyes. It's awful. I'd take snow any day.
Solo or team?
Team.
We always run with at least 2, usually 3 or 4, depending on what the recovery is. But too much can go wrong. And we're not out there doing it recreationally. We need to make sure that, if we're going to send somebody into the field, they've got somebody there. Something happens, they can call, we can reach out, they can get a monitor, we can get a backup team. It's just not worth not having somebody come home.
Jeep, Toyota, or other?
Before I bought my Jeep, I had 2 Chevy Silverados that I had lifted, put big tires on, and I used them in the org. And I always swore I would never get a Jeep. And then I started having some engine troubles in my last Silverado and went, all right, I need to shop for a good vehicle before I go to college and end up, 4 hours away from family with a dud vehicle, right? And so I started looking and went, wow, I'm only looking at Jeeps. I don't know how that happened. I ended up with a Jeep. But I think the vehicle type doesn't matter as long as it suits your needs and you're safe with. We've got people in our organization that we have a diesel swapped Land Cruiser. We have Jeeps, Toyota Tacomas, Chevy Colorados.
I was going to ask, do you know, out of your 100-some members, what each one drives? Do you have that?
There's a lot of Toyotas. There's some old Land Cruisers. There's
new
Power
Broncos.
Wagons, Broncos.
Yeah,
but we got 7 or 8 Broncos now.
More than that. We're starting to get more diversity, especially as all the Bronco modifications are coming to market. Yeah. So people can build them up a little bit easier. We're seeing more of the built-out Broncos, the Gladiators. We have a very small handful of Gladiators.
If your life had a theme song, what song would it be?
I'm gonna say Baby Driver, and Kimmy's gonna laugh at that because she kind of treats me like a little brother. I'm the youngest ever member in the org.
Are you?
I joined slightly
16?
before my 18th birthday. But yeah, so I joined when I was 17 years old. I want to say I'm one of maybe 2 that are still in college, and maybe the only one.
I think I would have to pick I've Been Everywhere by
I know.
Walk the Line, Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. You've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, I've been all over the place. I mean, largely Colorado the past few years, but I've had my Jeep from Montana into Mexico, from Death Valley, California, all the way out to Florida, and I've hit off-road parks and trails kind of all over the country. Made it out to San Hollow a couple of times, Moab, and still got a huge list of places that I want to hit. So
my first reaction is the Taylor Swift "I'm the Problem, It's Me." That's not the song, what it's called, but that song.
Some last parting words, Kimmy, hopefully you'll send me some links to throw on here, how they could
for sure
get a hold of you guys. Obviously, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the dispatch number, and how people can join.
Yeah, for
Are there
sure.
fees? Do they have to pay to join, or you just fill out a form? And
we'll have some onboarding sessions. So before you actually sign up to join, you attend a new member onboarding. We kind of walk through the steps.
And where's that at?
We're gonna have there'll be several this year. Normally we do them in person in Lakewood,
with
but
a virtual option.
There's a virtual option online as well, so you can just join through a Microsoft Teams link.
Is talking about doing some road shows down into El Paso and some of our kind of harder to reach counties and places where we want to cultivate more membership and kind of taking our leadership team down there to talk to people.
Remember last year we did one in Grand Junction. That was kind of a special case. Had some potential interested parties. We ran one out there.
We'll be posting those on
Website.
Facebook and Instagram and the website here within the next month or 2.
We typically do 2 cohorts a year, so there's usually a spring cohort and an early fall cohort. People can keep an eye on the website for those member interest meetings as we walk through all of the requirements, the levels, the what you just said, the cost, kind of our expectations, and we don't want to waste anybody's time, nor do we want, to go through the hoops of training people and bringing people on and have it fizzle. We want people who want to be here, and understand that it's not a
so somebody joins, but do they have to like go on so many missions to stay?
Yeah, we've got requirements for our probationary period. I believe within the first 6 months, you've got to run 10 missions. The first few are true ride-alongs where you leave your vehicle at the trailhead, or maybe somebody picks you up at your house, and you're just there to observe. Kind of as you progress through, you start bringing your own vehicle. And then
teach one. You start getting to do more stuff, work with stuff.
Wow.
And we have other roles in the organization as well. I mean, we have monitors. So every team that's out in the field has a monitor that we're in touch with. So we have to check in at least once an hour with the monitor. And they just kind of keep tabs on making sure everything's okay. And if they don't hear from the team, they'll send a backup team out. And they kind of help track some of the paperwork and the hours and the mileage and stuff like that. We also have dispatchers. We manage that hotline ourselves. It doesn't go to a call center that rings through to us. And somebody will pick up that phone or return a call from a voicemail. By far and above, responding out in the field is kind of what gets people interested, and most of our monitors and dispatchers are responders.
I'm definitely thankful for you guys, and I think you guys are all awesome. Thanks for hanging, and I definitely just appreciate you guys and what you do.
We appreciate it, Craig.
Meet you this way. Like,
I know.
What I tell everybody is like, respectfully, we don't really want to see you again.
All right, guys, that was fun. Definitely reach out to Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery if you're in Colorado and you want to help out. I love what they do. Obviously, not just because they help me out, but they're just all awesome people. They work awesome as a team, and I'll throw a link into the actual recovery that they did for my Jeep. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys.